Good to go.
I want to call the regular council meeting of Tuesday, August the 3rd to order. Teresa, would you like to call the roll, please?
What? Mayor Chip Dutcher,
Here.
Cheryl Robertson. Here. Doug Lanner,
Here.
Marvin Block,
Here.
Ken Lee,
Here.
Karen Hendren. Here. Carl Van Dee.
Councilman Lee is going to provide the invocation.
Lord, thank you for bringing us all here together this evening to discuss and deliberate those items most important to the village, the municipality, the community of Johnstown. Thank you for providing everybody with the talents and the discretion and the passion to have these conversations on behalf of themselves, on behalf of their neighbors, and anybody else who frequents the village. Thank you for continuing to watch over us. Please continue to watch over our first responders, as well as our military men and women, both home and abroad. In your name we pray. Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First up is action on minutes. And they were in the packet. Does anybody have any addition or corrections to the minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
I so move.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. Teresa, want to call the roll?
Doug Lanner,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ken Lee,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren,
Yes.
Carol Van Dee.
Yes.
Okay, well, that's good. Next up is the part of this evening's agenda, citizens having comments of matters not on the agenda. And I don't think anybody wants to say anything, so we will move right on. Next up is committee reports. Planning and zoning met on the 27th. And Bailey, you want to give us the lowdown?
Yes, planning and zoning on the 27th talked about two ordinances that have been sent to council and are on introduction tonight. One is amending chapter 1195 of the Village of Johnstown Codified Ordinances, and that includes the trash can ordinance, the trash can amendment. And then ordinance 33-2021 is amending chapters 1133, 1137, and 1181, and that will require a sign notifying the public of public hearings. After those ordinances were considered and discussed, we moved on to a zoning ordinance update in which we talked about section 30.08 and section 31, which was accessory structures and lot coverage and additional lot standards and all of that fun stuff.
Okay, questions for Bailey? Anybody? Hearing none, we'll move on. Safety and service met this evening. And Ben, would you like to, and I know you have something that you want to talk to us about that was done in safety and service.
Yep. So safety and service, we, excuse me, also talked about the trash can ordinance on for this evening, which we'll get to later. But through our, we also talked about the sidewalk replacement program that had been sitting on the table since we had applied for the Transportation Alternatives Program, the TAP program that we did not get this year, but we'll re-up that conversation here starting in September with safety and service. But through our construction project updates, when we thought it was going to be a short meeting, we started out talking about the interchange at Sportsman's Club in 62 and had several proposals that Jim and Jack shared with committee on what the engineering firm and the village had been discussing with respect to the end design, the anticipated costs and things of that nature. So through that discussion, we came to a 3-0 approval to move forward as a recommendation to council. to have a discussion about this final, the final design idea. So with staff wanting to move forward with the design piece, wanted to share with council what that design would look like and the associated costs, because it is different than what we had initially budgeted. So wanted to share some of that with you, but this is the design that we elected to recommend to council, and just wanted to have a discussion. If we wanted to have an informal vote on it to move forward as a group, we can do that. But just wanted to solicit feedback and conversation. Any other questions for Jim and Jackson? This is a pretty major project going
Well,
forward, so.
You want to talk about the actual design and like. we're
Yeah, I'll
not-
let Jim and
like
Jack take that away.
Extra stub that's.
Yeah.
Tell us
sticking-
what the red and the green is,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
Jim, I'm gonna let you handle
Okay.
this. I mean, I can if you want me to, but.
So there we go. The green will be a raised island, grass, nothing major there. Maybe a giant replica of a mastodon one day, but not right now. The red is going to be a raised stamped concrete with curb and gutter, so you cannot go through that red. That is to direct traffic where they should go. You can see some yellow striping that doesn't need to be concrete, so it's not going to be much cheaper to put paint down than concrete. So this construction will only take place for the 3 legs of 62 and Sportsman's Club. The Michelson/Dotterer property will not be built, nor will we attempt to acquire that right away. That will be done at a time that the property is developed. However, we are going to design it because we don't want to have engineers butt heads of how they design things. So we'll have the design sitting on the shelf. We'll hand it to the construction company. It takes into account the renovation and new building that Tech is going to do. This driveway will close and their new driveway will be coming down here. That's per their plan, not us telling them telling us. This take will probably involve the entire property, the standard property maybe, is what we're anticipating, because as you can see, there was a house right here, so there's negotiations would begin with the standard ownership there. So that's a whole different process than the design of this. So the construction estimates that we have do not include any cost for right of way, because we don't know exactly the acreage we'll be taking, nor do we know this cost for those services. We'll bring in a third party negotiator like we did on Jersey Street on 62. Unfortunately, the best negotiator that I know and that the public I think liked, unfortunately passed away. So we'll have to find somebody else to do that. But so the cost estimate for this is about $1.8 million and change. Our estimate for the applications for the state and for the SIB loan was 1.1 million. So we have 1.1 million in funding. Now that I think this is going to be solidified, that this is the option we're going to go with, we'll go back to the funding sources, being Jobs and Commerce and ODOT, as well as the SIB program, which they've already indicated they would give us more money. That's a 10-year repayment and 3% interest. So we borrowed a little over $500,000 for the project. So one thing of that $1.8 million is there's a 30% construction contingency. So, 400 and some thousand of that 1.8 is fluid. That number will come down as design takes place and we know more what's going to happen with it. So that's kind of the summary. We just got this late last week, and before we authorized the final, starting the final design and all that, I wanted to make sure my 7 bosses liked it. So
Question, does the project include taking out the old Sportsman's Club?
yes, this will be grass, and that is technically owned by the county engineer, although it's in the village, but I'm assuming we will take ownership of that right away. That leftover property. County engineer doesn't want it.
The other options that we looked at was the original signalization piece, which we budgeted at the 1.1. And then a more expensive piece at just about 2 million that offset this roundabout into the farm field a little bit more, which allowed for a pretty similar design, but allowed for maintenance of traffic. So the construction would take place off of the main 62 route. You would still allow, some thoroughfare to happen. But the idea of having that offset alternative wasn't,
This is what Ben's talking about there. So with this one, the maintenance of traffic is easier because traffic would be maintained while you build off to the side. This one does not take the entire property here at the corner. You can still see the house. It does take more of the daughter or farm, which is farmland, but it does skew it. It's a little, I don't know what you want to call it. Just it's offline, so those were discussed and safety and service came up with the prior design as something to go forward with. If we can handle shutdown 62, we can. Now this won't be shut down. This will be maintenance of traffic 2 ways, but we'll do our best to divert traffic. So for the safety of the workers and the traveling public.
the motion from safety and service was to move forward with the original proposal where it lays over top of the road as it stands now. It's a slightly less, 1.8 investment, but more than what the initial was, with a little bit more potential and acquisition costs, but that's what the motion was. Move forward with that and then move forward with the design phase of it as well. So wanted to bring it to council to have discussion or any other feedback, but if you felt any differently, Chip, I know you were in there and let your comments from the meeting as well.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, unless there's any other comments or questions from council.
Well, we can do that after we
Okay.
have a motion.
I'll make the motion like in safety and service, move forward with the overlay design as
The
proposed.
Option 2.
Or what were we calling it?
inline design.
Inline option.
I don't want to build the wrong one.
Yeah, the
Inline
inline option
design.
and then moving forward with initiating the design
Design.
as well.
I'll second that.
Been moved in second. Now we can have some discussion.
And the third option is just doing the signal,
Yeah.
which is much cheaper, but a long-term maintenance.
Long
cost.
term going to be.
Do
this is-
people get upset about us taking over their, I mean, we don't do it, them taking their ground? Do they, I suppose they get reimbursed? Is it
they get paid
very well or
Yeah,
just?
Fair
do
market
they-
value.
very well.
Okay,
I'll show you the payouts we did on 62.
really? Okay.
Very
It
well.
was,
Oh,
they were made whole.
all right.
One reason we like that, the staff liked the first version, the offset. We liked the other version. They was trying to save us money going into the farm field and leaving those houses there at the point. Farm ground's gonna be pretty expensive, I think. And we would still leave the blighted area, I call it, there on the corner.
To answer your question, Sharon, the ODOT process, you got to get appraisals and there's negotiation and all that stuff. So they're made whole.
What if they have to sell, but I mean, what if they refuse? Yeah.
Court. I mean,
Then
the end is court. And,
Taking.
I see.
you duke it out there, but
Yeah.
all of the ones on Jersey, actually the ones on Jersey were donated. The ones on 62 were,
Jersey came down to the 11th hour with a couple of them. though.
right. Yep.
Know that.
But yeah, they're made whole.
Okay, I'm just curious.
I wish I had property on 62. When I saw the checks.
Anybody else? Questions,
I'm just glad we
comments?
held out and went for the roundabout.
Me too.
I guess that was kind of the first decision you guys made at
Was the
safety and
roundabout.
service, skip
Right.
bypassing the signal and we're on board.
Obviously
with the
cheaper
roundabout.
for the signal at 1.1, but does it make the most sense long-term? And once we made the decision that it made better sense to skip the signal and move it to roundabout, then it was just a matter of what design to end with. And if we had the financing availability, and we wanted to go down that route, which at 3%, it's affordable.
So It's been moved and seconded. Anybody, any further discussion? If not, Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Sure. Ben Lee,
Yes.
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Peter Dutcher,
Yes.
Karen Hendren.
Yes.
Carol Keith, Doug Blainer,
Yes.
Marvin Block.
Yes, the second time.
He voted twice.
And we will move ahead with.
You want to explain that eight?
It passes 8-0. Yeah.
Yeah.
It passed 8-0. Thank you. Anything else, Ben?
No, that's it for safety.
That's enough. Okay. Finance met on the July 20th. Draft minutes that were attached in your packet. Ben, nothing, we pretty much did.
We hit that last time. Yeah.
Yeah, the last time. Economic development did not meet last time.
No, but it meets.
It's
this
gonna
coming
meet on
Thursday.
Thursday.
It'll be a fun meeting.
It'll be fun. And the new Grow Licking County Executive Director will be joining us.
Alexis.
I've met her and she is delightful.
That what you said about me when you first met me.
Absolutely. And then Park and Rec met on July the 8th. We updated that the last time. And it'll meet on the August the 12th.
Which I will not be there. Chip won't be there because we have our brunch at the fairgrounds.
Yeah,
I think Carol can handle it.
Carol can handle it. We'll phone
Well, if
in.
we vote, are you gonna be there, Sharon?
What's
You'll
going
be
on
at the fair, probably.
I
We-
forget what's going on that day.
There's all, on the Thursday, they always do a
Lunch and-
brunch for local.
Lunch or brunch for the fair board that they're treating us to.
I will try, okay, I'll try to be there. What time? 10? I should be there. I don't
If
know
you're
what-
not, I'm gonna have some things I definitely want to vote in person and it's gonna be covered.
Oh,
You give me your proxy if you're not there.
Thank you, Carol.
Sharon,
What?
you give me your proxy to vote for you if you're not.
Yeah.
there.
I
But
will.
if there's something we need to do, we
Sunshine
can
rules are.
make
huge on
arrangements to do
that.
that. The Joint Recreation District Board will have its organizational meeting on the 12th of August. And at 5 o'clock, and they will, at that point, they will choose the 5th member of the board. Amongst other things, and learn how to be a board.
They may, I mean,
May.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
may, it's up to them.
It's up to
And I
them.
will tell you, Teresa and Jim and I have been meeting about how to structure that meeting. And you're all invited. I mean, it would be nice if we got them off to a good start and show that we're all,
We
on board
support.
with them. And I assume the board school board may be sending some people too.
and the village provided email accounts. That's kind of an in-kind contribution. Or a whopping $4.99 a month, I think. We took that burden upon ourselves. So they can at least communicate in a public setting with emails and not their own.
And until they get officers in place, Teresa has willingly offered to be there to take the minutes and call the roll and so forth and so on. 'Cause she's so good at it.
She is. Next up is Personnel Board of Review. And Carol, you and I, and along with Marvin, we have to come up with a meeting date when we're all available.
And somebody wants it within the next 2 weeks.
And we can do it.
So we'll try.
We'll try to get it
There's a
done.
lot going on.
We will try to get it done. To discuss the handbook and the police department manual. I know you're anxious to get that, chief, and we're anxious to get it done too. Events committee, we updated that last time. I don't think there's anything else, or maybe.
The only thing that
there
we
is.
have, the meeting is tomorrow, and it's really just a hindsight to go over what went well, to review the feedback from food vendors, anybody else that was participating, just make sure that we've got a good foundation for what went well, what we want to improve, and make sure we got a good step moving forward for next year. So
was a great event. Next up is director reports. Jack, you're up.
All righty. First, we'll start with the street department. Mike Guthridge has instituted our block by block where we're gonna fix every pothole and as we move down the street. So they did get that started. They're actually going to be doing more asphalting tomorrow. So in their first stretch there, they've used 12 tons this month, and they are working in the severe areas on Hassan Street, which we all know are in rough condition. Also, I mean, they've been doing a lot of just general sign replacement and repairs around town, doing some tree trimming around signs to get a better visual look. We had some lights go out on Buena Vista, also in Concord. I think the Buena Vista area has been completed. I know he's working on the Concord section. And you have a few pictures of the tree back in there that fell on the house out of the cemetery. There's been a couple water lines hit and leaks that also the service crews had to work on this month or last month, excuse me. They've been very busy, and Mike and Teresa, along with the chief, went to CPR training, and it would be our goal to have our entire staff, service department and water and sewer get that training as well. So we're looking into that so we can get all of our employees up to date.
And to go along that actually with CPR, first aid and trauma, was that right, chief? CPR,
CPR, AED,
AED,
first aid.
first aid
Okay, so
stuff.
So yeah, like I said, that'll be one of our major goals before the end of the year to see if we can get all of our employees certified in that. I'm going to jump clear to the very last page. There's a couple pictures here. This is the base of the water tower being started. That construction is up and going well. Any questions about street department?
Did you find out what the hole is in the base?
Yes, I did. That has to have extra rebar and extra concrete. Jim posed a wonderful question to me. We had a hole in the center of the base. That is where the crane will sit
Oh,
to lift the rebar and the wall forms all the way to the top. And then that crane continues to be built as they go higher and higher. Yeah, Jim asked me a great question that I had no answer for. I said, what is that hole? But that particular hole had to have stronger rebase or stronger rebar and concrete for the crane. It's going to lift this all the way to the top.
makes sense.
So Mike Guthridge is trying to keep us up with some pictures at every meeting so we can, you know, have a log of that as it's being built. And then Ben, did you have a question?
I did two questions. With the street department, we've started advertising for the new hire.
Yes, we have. And at this point, I think we have 4 applications.
Good. Pretty good. We're gonna say somewhere. Mike put in his report here about a trauma kit or something like that potentially. I know we've had that conversation in finance before.
We have had that conversation. I was looking and maybe we shouldn't wait, you know, because things can happen at any time. But I think as we discussed in other areas, we ought to have at least one in every one of the plant service buildings. And actually they should be in our work trucks. I think that's going to run into expense. I was going to look to put that in the 2022 budget. Now, if we think it needs to happen sooner, I have nothing wrong with it.
And I believe chief was in the same realm in the cruisers as well.
So I've got actually all the cruisers outfitted. The company that came and did the training was gracious enough to donate all of those.
With the AEDs?
Wow.
You know, now the AEDs, I do have a lead on actually receiving AEDs for pretty much the entire village. That will be pulled at DSCC from an area that's not being used. At this point, they just need to subsidize equipment, render it over to the government, and in which time it'd be rendered to us. So I am working on a lead to actually get AEDs.
Be great.
They're brand new pads, new batteries, and recently updated. There will still need to be an update that will be associated with it because as of now, we no longer do any breaths. It's all chest compressions. And the device will say, stop and do, rescue breathe. So they're going to take that out of the machines altogether. But as it looks like, I think they said they're able to get 44 or 45 AEDs.
Wow.
I don't think we'll need
great.
that many, but it will definitely be enough for the cars, for one for this area, for the admin, police side, water, sewer, and service park.
That's great.
Just then was there a cost to that you said, or no? There's
Zero.
zero cost to that.
That's great.
Wonderful.
That's something we've talked about several times, several budget cycles about moving forward with that. With that, is there anything that might need to be entertained in finance in 2 weeks relative to provisioning, anything like that sooner rather than later?
I think that Jack had mentioned the actual trauma kits. They're relatively inexpensive. I think $90 per vehicle. And he did recommend that they should be in the vehicles or even in the building. And I couldn't agree more with him. I do think that if somebody needs to apply tourniquet or stop bleeding on something that happens right there at the scene, I do think it's very important to have those in the vehicle. And I think it's a very little cost.
Can we entertain that finance in 2 weeks?
Sure.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Teresa, if you would mind, I'll make a note too, but if you could make a note to add trauma kits to finance agenda in 2 weeks. Okay, cool. That's all I had. I appreciate it. Thank you.
If there are no more for street, I'm going to jump into the water. We have a lot of the, same things happening every month. For the month of July, we produced a little over 17 million gallons, 32 shutoffs, which is pretty much an average, very close to average. We did get some more training in for our licensed operators who have to have continuing education to maintain their licenses. And we did have some extensive testing of the raw water and finished water, our trihalomethanes and things like that. So we'll have a large testing bill, but again, it's all in budget. It's set up that way. And as I said, item number 10 there, the staff had 23 hours of training. Again, your water plant daily tap results looking good. They're all consistent where they should be. You did see a little downtick in production of the water plant. That's related to something you're going to see on the sewer report because our bulk water station went down about a week and a half ago. We're waiting on parts, so we're not selling that water out of the bulk station. But if you compare what our pumpage is to the 2 previous years, we're still well ahead of the pace from a couple of years ago and last year. And again, that's a very quick rundown, but are there any questions about the water department? All right. Sewer department, jumping into it. Processed about 20 million gallons for the month. You can see the comparison. We did have some rainstorms, which indicates the inflow that, again, they're working on annually. We've put $100,000 to try to seal these sewers up to remove some storm water. But we do know we had a couple storms there, and you can see how it directly impacts our efficiencies, as Rick has them down here, are just continue to be wonderful. We have a good operating plant, and we have a great staff down there that is running the plant correctly. You see all these at 98, 99% removals throughout the plant. Jumping into the last page, you see the septic receiving is up. We are getting more and more septic in. That's pretty normal this time of year. A lot of people get their septic tanks and things cleaned out before the winter season hits. And unfortunately, well, depends on who you talk to. The water plant operators are breathing a sigh of relief, but you see our bulk station sales are down, and rain, and then the equipment is down, which we hope to have those repair parts in the end of this week so we can get back onto the sales. Any questions about the water department or processes?
question. I know all about cleaning out septic tanks because I live in the country. People are still, the older homes are still having to clean out, have their septic tanks cleaned.
Yeah, it's regular business. They recommend between every 3 and 5 years that you have your septic tank cleaned out. And these septic haulers have to have some place to take it. And Johnstown has a facility to take it.
And this is just for the older homes.
Any home that's outside of the village that is not on a village sewer system
Oh,
As-
okay.
as a
All right.
septic
Yeah,
tank.
I was thinking, I thought.
Oh, none in town,
Yeah.
Sharon, none in town. We
oh,
don't have
you
that.
do- Okay.
We accept sewage from outside where they have private
Outside the
systems.
yellow.
That worried me. I thought, you may not.
Outside the yellow
All
line.
right. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Jack, I know I sent you an email over the weekend. Just curious, sewer specifically. But really looking at the receptive piece of it and knowing that we have taken in the, egg wash and the egg farm stuff for a while, the things that we have contracts against and what have you, and knowing kind of the higher loads that they do give the machinery and lend to the process down there at the sewage station. Wanted to make sure that since it's been some time at this point, do we still feel like the terms that are set forth, what we're receiving financially, what we're selling things at, and what have you, are still set up to provide a good ROI on the service that we're providing? And a lot of it, again, is just with the undertone of just the stress that it puts on the machinery down there.
Where we're at is, as you know, and we've discussed, the loading rates are high coming in, but we currently are not at a high flow rate. It's less flow, strong material. So the plant has more time to process it and filter this out. And as you saw earlier in the report, we're doing a magnificent job of getting that ammonia and those items out of the water. We're getting the 98, 99% removal. On the sewer end of it, yes, the answer is we're still doing very well. They are actually tremendously oversending and we're being able to handle it. So the more they send, obviously, the more profitable we're getting on this because we are not experiencing any violations at this time. Now, the whole reason for the new sewer plant is as more and more homes are built and the industrial park comes online, then we're going to be getting up towards the maximum flow that plant can handle. Then the higher strengths will become a problem. But we hope obviously to have the new facility or the add-on to the facility to handle that when these higher flows go. But just as a quick target, per our contract, the wastewater, New Day wastewater should be delivering 5 million gallons per year to us. To date, through the first 7 months, they have delivered 4,900,000 gallons. So we are meeting that goal, which was our target area, and we're going to well exceed that again this year. So what they're sending in currently, as long as our flows are where they're at right now, we are kind of exceeding our goals.
And that relative to the stress of the machinery, you feel like we're
Yes.
okay.
Yeah, we're okay. We're doing fine.
Okay. All right. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Moving right along. Jim, you're up.
I think I shared this, but we were quoted in Drive Ohio's press release today. So I thought that was kind of fun to have some village recognition with the nation's first systems engineering guidebook for connected and automated vehicles. So I don't know what that means, but we're in there.
Whatever it means, we're on the cutting edge.
Yes, right. So that all goes back to the mobility hub and them using us and us using them for mutually beneficial ways. That was one of the things that happened today. One thing on the Hartford water line, we had a meeting on the 29th. It was well attended. I think the majority of the fair board was there.
Over attended.
And all that really came out of that was everybody was interested. We made it clear, the Village of Johnstown made it clear to everybody that we are not spending one dime of our money if this were to go forward. So a couple times, Commissioner Black said, well, we'll put the pipe in, but you guys will design it. And no, you're going to design it. You're going to do everything if this goes forward. And I did not commit the Village of Johnstown to anything other than a further conversation. So I think it went well. There was two primary concerns up in the Village of Hartford, which was annexation and mandatory hookups, which we kind of squashed that right away, that we don't have any, we're not annexing. That's a private property owner prerogative, and we can't force anybody to tap on. Since then, Representative Frazier's water and sewer infrastructure program came out, $250 million. That money can be used towards tap fees, you know, if the Village of Hartford wants to use that for tap fees, because the commissioners are not using their money for tap fees because they are doing this in other parts of the county, mainly towards Hanover, Newark area. So if they pay for tap fees up in Croton, they're gonna have to do it for Marne and Hanover, and that was clear. And then Hartford said, well, we don't have any money. And then, so conversation's progressing. We're gonna meet again on the 19th at 5:30 here in this room, if y'all are interested. Mainly to see if anything's moving but what I want from you all, I guess, or need from you all, is the decision if this is still of interest to the village. Whether or not, I know, you know, Cheryl shared concerns, I have concerns, but until we have those conversations and are able to answer those questions and alleviate those concerns, I'm not on board. I wouldn't expect you all to be, but is it something you want us to continue down discussing? If we were able to get the entire system paid for up front, and then we recoup money on the back end through selling of water to the village and to the fairgrounds.
I think it would be great. What does it cost a person, individual, to tap on? Is it all different prices?
No, it's based on water meter size, which is 7,000.
Yeah, standard 3/4 inch house
Okay.
services, that's $7,000.
Well, I think, Jim, you know, I have a problem with this whole proposal.
Mhm.
And Sharon, how many people are going to tap in up there in Hartford? I mean, it's a very poor community. Who's going to pay $7,000 just tap in besides the fairgrounds, Trillium,
Well, the
maybe
fairgrounds
the
would
horse
be a good
farm?
one,
We've
but
got 3.
But they only use water for
Three-
two
yeah.
2 weeks of the year. So they're not gonna be a big,
And then we would have maintenance for the rest of our lives for those lines. We will be sending our people up to Hartford to work on these lines. It's a long way up there. I don't see the potential. You know, it's all the egg farm up there. Who's going to build up there? Who's going to build a housing division by an egg farm? I can't think of anybody. Who's going to build a corporate headquarters up there?
nobody.
No one. That farmland is shot for the next 100 years because of the egg farm up there. That's how I feel, and I'm pretty passionate about it. So anyway,
The only thing that I would say is if they can get this money through Fraser, now I'm talking about Hartford, to pay their tap fees, I think they all will hook on. Because if it's no cost for them to hook on, and it's not a water and sewer bill to Johnstown, it would be a water only bill.
Mhm.
And so I think a lot of it hinges on whether they get that next grant or not. Also, I would disagree with you a little bit, which is fine.
Mhm.
That ground will develop one way or another. And it will develop sometime.
I don't agree with that.
And that's fine. That's fine as we watch farm ground disappear every day.
Mhm.
If we can have that infrastructure in place and we own and control it, and we don't have to pay a penny to put it in the ground, I think the maintenance on that over the next 50 years will be minimal. I think it would be easy to cover the maintenance expense with what's being sold, because that new pipe installed correctly, we would expect it to last for 50 years.
Will we need a new water tower, another water tower though, Jack?
That's figured into the price of the unit already of what the county would pay for.
Yeah, if it's touching and associated with running up there, such as a booster or a tower, we're not paying for it.
Okay.
Yeah, the commissioners are paying for it.
And the last part of this, and here again, that's what council have to decide. Is that ground important or is it not important? And then once the water line's there, it will spread down different streets, different, down Benner, down Woodhaven. I mean, it'll branch, because once the water's there, people will want it. Just as we found out running out towards New Day, that was not our initial intent to talk to anybody. Well, our phones started ringing. We didn't contact them initially. They contacted us. Hey, is that a water line? Can we hook onto it? So I think then Johnstown then would be able to control that area versus letting Delco come in and be that close to us right next door.
But we
Because
also,
if we don't supply the water, Delco will.
but Jack, we just got that message where Delco was gonna come down county line. And the commissioners are like, we can't stop them, so they can just come on in anyway.
Actually, I got a notification from Yaz's assistant today. They're going to render a decision on that, or what they believe a decision on that shortly. I had to answer a few more questions for them today. And again, I think that's a terrible thing.
Mhm.
I think Johnstown, with the money we have, needs to look at opening our boundaries, because if we don't, we'll be another Bexley, or we will be surrounded. We have Southwest Licking to the south of us. Columbus is over here to the west. If we let Delco take everything up here to the north, our growth opportunities are going to really slim down. Where if we have the water out there and available, but that is a council decision. Do you want to keep those corridors open for Johnstown, or are we happy with just being?
I'd rather see it go
Anyway.
down Route 37 where there's more housing going to be built. I would rather expand that way if we were going to expand.
I have no objection to that.
How many houses are in Croton?
170 addresses. I did some GIS work,
170.
addresses. I can't confirm that's buildings or not.
So that's about,
Do they have a sewer system there now?
yes, they do.
How much do they pay for that?
I have no idea.
$90 a month.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive.
Well, that takes care of Croton Road too, not just Croton.
Well, and anything that branches
There's some
off of that.
nice, I
How many-
kind of disagree with Cheryl because there's some nice homes on Croton Road.
How many taps did you get on the line you ran out to Troy or to the New Day? How many taps along the way?
We just did 5 pay of,
5.
of 10
How,
of 10 possible. How many letters did we send out
oh,
along that stretch?
30,
Because after we got the calls, we started sending them out.
So you had 30 eligible people and 5 of them.
there might have been more than 30, in there somewhere, yeah. And 5 have paid their tap in.
So that percentage, and you can't make them tap in Croton. You had 170 houses up there, right all the way up there. You might not get but 20 people signing up.
That's possible.
And I think that hinges on the 250 million from Representative Frazier. Because I think you probably have 90% tap on rate, if not all 100%, if that 700,000 falls into their lap and they don't have 1 cent to pay for it.
And really, it comes down to, I'm not one to, me personally, look a gift horse in the mouth. If they're going to put it in the ground, they're going to pay for it. And all I have to do is maintain it. I think it's a good thing. But again, council has to decide if that area has no interest to you for, I see 2 or 3 different reasons I have interest in it, to protect that area. But again, your call where you want to go with it. And I would like to see us stretch down 37 up towards county line also. I really would. Because if we don't, Delco will, and then our corridors are closed.
When you talk about you just have to manage it. That concerns me because we would have to hire more people, correct? I don't want all of our people here going up there to work on their,
Well, their fee structure would cover, just like we do right now for Johnstown. If we need a new employee because we're selling more water, it's fixed into the fee. So if, as you see this huge increase in water that we have, we actually had to hire another employee, but we didn't stress over it because the price of that employee is fixed into every gallon we sell. We would definitely do the same thing running down that road. The price of that water for any additional employees for the new water being sold, it would be fixed into every gallon we sell, that if we end up needing a new employee, that's already fixed into the cost.
Yeah, every gallon of water is a widget. We're selling lots of widgets, and that is baked in there for the cost of that employee.
I don't think the Croton Egg Farm is, I know at one time it's awful. My son had a place right beside it. And when he sold the place, he did well. I mean, in the last, it's improved a lot. I
Well,
think,
it's hard to believe. My son bought a house out there. Has it been 4 years ago now? Paid $170,000 for it. They're telling him he can sell it for 2.25 if he wants to right now. And he's just after the bend. And he and I have talked about, because the flies were always an issue, and
they're not so bad anymore.
he says, no, not that they're managing their waste now. It's not. Now, could they falter and not manage the waste again? Absolutely. But the EPA lives with them pretty regularly to make sure that those things are managed. So particularly on this Johnstown end, that ground may become available. But again, it's not because I own ground out there and need a water line out there. It's that I just think it's a protection of an area, because once we bypass it, there is another group that says we'll supply the water. So
Yeah.
they must believe there's some growth there.
Who said that?
Delco.
Who they said to?
They said it to the fair board. If we don't follow through with this, Delco's coming in.
Well, Tim Bubb told me, I asked him why Delco didn't come to the fair board or the fairgrounds, and he told me that Delco didn't want it.
It's not what I heard the other day.
That's what Tim Bubb told me on the phone. Was Delco at the meeting?
Delco was, they were not
No.
invited.
You wouldn't have been invited. Why would we?
Tim
want
Bubb
Yeah,
himself,
we don't want to get.
Tim Bubb himself told
the
me,
enemy?
because I asked him why Delco didn't come on down to the fairground if he was going to give the northern part of the county away. And he said Delco did not want the fairgrounds. They just want the cream of the crop. And that's all.
Well, it hasn't been 2 weeks ago that a representative from Delco called me directly and said, we need to know Johnstown's intent, because if you're not coming, we're coming.
Yeah.
So, here again.
Tell them when we figure it out, we'll let them know.
And basically I told him we were having meetings on it. And I framed it, we've run that first mile out there. And, but again, I'm not here to be argumentative. I'm just giving you the facts.
Tell Delco that this might be the first area in the state of Ohio that people has competition in public utilities. Let them run it and we'll run right beside of them.
That wouldn't make a lot of sense.
No.
Why?
Well,
We offer sewage too.
Because
You're
you
just offering
no,
water.
No, we're
there's
not.
Offer of sewage up through there.
Not spending our money running them a sewer line.
I would go along with Jack. I agree with you, Jack.
Would we be responsible for the sewer plant up there?
No,
No.
that belongs to them.
So we would not have to do anything with that.
Now, someday, would they say, at Johnstown, we don't have anybody running this. Do you want to take it over? That would not surprise me, Cheryl, but we always have the option to say no, or we have the option to say for a price. Same thing we did when we were having discussions with Alexandria. We talked about running water to Alexandria, and then there was discussions, well, would you take the sewer plant over as well? But those are no part of the discussions we're having now. This is strictly water.
since we're talking water, did you ever get a definitive answer on our aquifer?
Oh.
This definitive answer on the offer was we do have that second million to go to the addition to the water plant expansion. And we are already starting studies to look for the third million to see if it's underground here. We don't need that third million for 10, 15, 20 years, however long it takes. But instead of wondering when that day comes for whatever operator is there, we have recorders and transducers in the wells now taking recordings. We've signed a contract with Egan and Associates to monitor the drawdown, and they will also monitor the drawdowns when the new plant comes online to see if that third million is there in place, or whether that $500,000's there, or is it 4 million? But for this next expansion, yes, we have the definitive answer that the water is there.
Is there any kind of a map relative to the boundaries of this aquifer, as far as anybody knows?
I think there is.
I have that
Control.
EPA pollution control map where if there's a spill, you gotta report it. I don't know if I've ever seen an aquifer map though.
Well, it shows that, I think it does on that map show that body of water coming from just the outside of Croton, down through Johnstown, down through Alexandria, all the way into Newark, attaching to the Licking River. I think there is a picture of that. Yeah, like through Granville on to Newark.
For me, just in terms of processing the water availability piece, it might be nice if there was a
You
map that could be sent out relative to the size of that.
Nope, that's
Yeah.
not it.
You get 250 taps going up there, 6,000 gallon a day, or 6,000 gallon per tap a month, which is average Johnstown residents.
Yeah.
You're looking at 1.5 million gallon a month. So that takes 1 day of our sewer, or 1 day of our capacity away from our water plant.
So for me, for the Hartford conversation, I think we should continue to engage in the conversation and the meetings, because for me, I want the village to have a seat at the table, for sure, as long as we possibly can relative to this discussion. I have some agreements with respect to, if somebody's paying to put it into the ground, it's hard to say no. Similarly to the $62 we got from ODOT for over here, where they were giving us money for that. And we decided to go in for that because we know it needed to be done. So one way or another, it sounds like Hartford is going to get water in some capacity. It's just who. So then the question comes down to me is operating and maintenance cost. If it's low, that's fine. If it tiers as you go on through the years, I think that's fine. Just understand that. But question one would be ROI. What kind of ROI are you looking for relative to whatever costs that we may incur, be it labor to travel out there for operating, and maintenance or what have you. But I think there are two other questions that for me are outstanding that we're still waiting on some feedback from, that you alluded to, Jack, with one of them, with an opinion coming soon, but then whether or not, that $250 million can be accessed for tap fees. So for me, I'm fine continuing to have that seat at the table and have that conversation, but I'm not ready to commit one way or the other, yes or no.
Well, yeah, and I'm
Yeah,
fine with that. I'm just saying we're expanding to another plant, I assume, to handle growth. I guess the question is what directions do we want to grow? I think that's to Cheryl's point. What directions do we want to go?
Much more lucrative directions. for
Yeah,
that.
there are,
Absolutely.
but I don't see anybody willing to pay for lines to be put in the ground.
Exactly.
in Any of those directions, those will all come at our expense.
Yeah.
That's for me where ROI comes to be a central point, is what that's going to bear out to be.
Because how far can we go towards New Albany?
Having,
They're right there.
If a
just hearing
developer
Jim,
wants City water, he may have to run it.
hearing Jim say that commissioners are still voicing, that they'll put it in, but
Oh.
well, maintenance that, I don't know,
They
kind of
want it.
puts a question in my head about whether or not they have a firm grasp of what they're offering and what they're asking us to do. Right? When Rick Bach is saying, we want to, we'll put it in, but you'll do the design, you'll do the engineering. And stuff.
Oh, that's off the table. I think Rick Black left the meeting that night knowing that they're gonna design it. mean, I said it, what, 3 times maybe?
And loudly the last time.
But we said it
We
before that.
said, we
very
did
clear.
say in the meeting with them that we would, because we wanted to control it, we would have a major say in how it was designed and how it was
Sure.
built, and we would be the construction manager types.
Absolutely. They would
that-
just, they would
they're just write us
EFT
a
us the
check.
money and it's in our account once we know what the money needs to
Right.
be. And we'll run the project. They don't want to run the project.
They don't know anything about
Well, how would,
water line.
okay. When would we know if that 250 million that Hartford would have that available for tap-ins? Because I would not want to sign on to this before I knew that they could have the money for tap-ins.
So there's a dilemma, I guess do we let someone else run and try and get that money? Or do we do it on behalf of the project? I mean, we've been successful before with trying to get other people's money,
So
So
we really don't know which way that would go.
we have to get it on a list through the county engineer because he does a lot of water and sewer projects, but that's how the state
Mhm.
set up the program through the county engineer. Whatever, but we gotta get on that list. And then after that, there's an application process. You don't have to be on the list, but if you do, you get extra points in your scoring. So no offense to anybody else, but I would assume the village would take over the writing and the lobbying of getting that piece of $250 million.
Hartford's not gonna be able to do it.
Well, Terry said that. Terry Wise, the administrator, has been unsuccessful in getting,
But would we have to commit to Hartford providing water before we know if we
No,
get the
I
money?
wouldn't.
Oh,
No,
no.
no, no.
No, okay.
And until we've got a firm commitment from the commissioners, this isn't going anywhere.
For sure.
Well, aren't we meeting with them, you said, on the
I
19th?
mean, I don't trust them any
Correct.
farther. I can throw them, and
I
I
think we'll
said that on
get a
here.
lot of questions answered at that meeting, too.
yeah, there's a few things that we have on our
I
checklist.
told them that.
Village of Hartford's doing a little bit on their end. I'm not sure the Fair Board is. We did tell them what a 6-inch tap cost. So they had to pick their jaws off the ground and figure that part out. That's $460,000.
Mhm.
Well, their Christmas lights will pay for that.
Could be. So there's just a lot
All
of
the traffic
conversation.
we're gonna have to deal with in the month of November and December.
Oh, yeah.
Are they doing that?
Yeah,
Like Hebron at the.
they're getting
Fairway?
$75,000 a month for 10 years from this light thing.
Down at National Trail Waste.
The National
Raceway.
Trail, National Trails is doing their
Oh, I
own
know what
thing,
you're-
and they
okay,
threw
alright.
these people
Yeah,
out.
we didn't get-
And now that's going to the fairgrounds and will be there for the month of November and December into January,
Very when? This year?
starting this year.
Really?
Came out of
Wonderful.
National Trails?
That's cool. I think it's great.
That company that was at National Trails is moving to the
The
fairground.
people who had the light show at National Trails are not going to be at National Trails. They're going to be at the Hartford Fairgrounds, along with all of the cars and traffic that'll be going to the Hartford Fairgrounds to see this spectacular Christmas display. And they're all going to end up on Main Street. So
Well,
get
There'll be a
ready.
line through.
who owns that corner there?
Now-
And
There'll be a
Hartford
line.
has said that they're going to loop people through the fairgrounds
that's so-
and not
coffee and hot chocolate.
Kick them out. the
keep them off all the roads up there. But that, we'll see how that works. It did not work at National Trails.
As someone who frequented that site, it did not work.
Yeah,
It did not work.
every year.
Now, National
took my
Trails
kids
is
there.
also having a light show, but they're producing their own. And because they threw out this contractor who did it for them,
And
and
that
they're
was a
they're
smooth
doing their
ship
own.
Down there, once you get in.
Yeah,
So
It moved pretty quickly.
And
once
it
you-
looked good. I mean, I will say, my grandchildren loved it.
Yeah.
But,
so anyhow,
so maybe.
and they're
Hey,
paying them
Roger, love that.
75,000
But
bucks.
we'll ease some of the traffic,
month.
the
Think
traffic.
about all the people.
They have a
from Sunbury,
10-year
you know?
contract.
Yeah.
Wow.
I started laser light show in Johnstown.
But
There you
you were
go.
saying, you were saying the fair's only once a year, but do they realize people are begging for campsites up there? I mean, they had my 3 of my kids camp up there during the fair. And I think they said 50 people couldn't get a campsite. Do you realize how much water they use?
But that keeps the people who do have those campsites
What?
it helps raise the rates they can charge for
Supply
the
and demand.
people they rent campsites to.
Yes, and they do, they charge $300. And what I'm saying is that the water they use up there during the fair is like 6 months compared to a house. I mean, if you're saying they use a lot of water up there during the fair. They have all
As,
those
as a
campers.
camper,
Huh?
as a camper, they
Yeah,
do.
all over the campers have water. Yeah.
Don't they wash the animals down?
Wash
too?
the
Wash the
animals
animals.
and do all
You
that.
realize how much
Sharon's
water
in the
they are.
But right
using?
now, that's coming from the,
Water's too.
Yeah.
the well.
Sharon, we gear up our water plant here to produce some water for 2 weeks a year,
No,
when they need maybe 200,000 gallons a day at the fair for 2 weeks.
I'm all for it because I'm a carny, but that's okay.
anyhow,
I'm just saying there's more than the fair out there,
Yes.
but again,
there is.
that's,
To be
that's council's decision.
I was wondering, as this process moves along, if it's possible, the staff and council could get a pro-con sheet going, because that's gonna help me make my decision when we get to that place.
Absolutely. So yeah, we'll have, estimated amount of users, estimated usage. We'll do a pro forma like we did when we went to Alexandria.
Fact report.
Yeah, we'll absolutely.
Makes sense.
And we're all gonna want that,
Yeah,
or we put our name on.
yeah, absolutely. So,
Moving
Sorry,
right
take it
along.
I mean, my
Next.
my report is what it is. Some of you may know, I decided to take a big old tire and wheel into the front of my car, 70 miles an hour. So I got the repair bill for that. Insurance is paying for it, but it's about 9,000 right now.
Wow.
2 incidents, one in a parking lot, and then 2 days later, I hit that tire, or the tire hit me actually. And then the other thing, EDA, Federal Economic Development Association announced $3 billion in 7 funds and 7 projects. One's coal-based, so we were not going to be eligible for that, but something the ED committee may want to take a look at if there's planning money and construction money. So, take a look. So, other than that, happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I have another question. I see here that, are you meeting with ODOT next week or is it this week for
It's next week,
US 62?
I believe,
And
right, Jack?
Yep.
when will they give us a plan? Like,
Stage 3 should be this, we should be reviewing it and
I
having
think
comments.
we're discussing it
okay,
at this next meeting.
Yes.
when do we notify POTI that this is going to be the layout so they can tell or get back to us what they're going to do with the light that they're supposed to put in, which I still have a fear that they won't put in.
I understand that fear. They'll put it in. And to answer your question, if there's no significant issues on that meeting, whenever we're meeting with them,
Yeah,
I think it's next week. We'll give them the plans the next day and say,
Okay.
hey, here's your plans now, have at it.
mhm,
However, if there's a major flaw in the plans from the consultant and there's got to be a redo, then we'll hold on to those until we know that the plans are pretty up to snuff. So, I
okay,
mean,
And
quite literally right after the meeting.
as I understand it, our friends at DOT have said there will be no roundabout.
Correct.
They, when you buy a house from Pulte,
Hmm.
they can tell you that they are responsible. So, lose some confidence. They're putting up with it now. but they'll let the guys at the shop. And yes, that's become a problem.
Yeah, it
during
is.
my time, that in the afternoon, when the workers are leaving and other people, were leaving us for work, appointment closed or work. Now back to the shopping center all the way to the top. So if you want a house there, you can, like your developer and builder, that they're responsible. So I don't think they want to deal with that. Not putting it through.
okay. Hopefully it'll get done.
It was supposed to start after phase 1, wasn't it? They're working on phase 3 now.
Actually, yeah, they're working on you have to remember, they don't have that many more lots left in the easement. They
I know they don't. That's what I keep saying.
just kept selling at their pace right now. They would probably be finished.
Yeah, and they'll probably sell out and discount and not do anything they're supposed to do.
They'll get it done. I promise you that.
I just had somebody mention a different concept to me. I know we can't do it, but it was intriguing to me because I'd never considered it. Is putting a roundabout where Westview is. And those people that come out of Pulte could turn right, go around the roundabout and then head back out and no light. I know that that's not where ODOT's going, but up to that far, but I hadn't even thought about something like that. I thought that was interesting idea. Throw it out there.
Yeah, and you'd only still have to build 2 legs of it or 3 legs of it because the
Yeah.
cost you $1.8 million.
You know how much?
What's a red light cost?
Oh, 1.1.
No, with the arms and everything.
Oh, well, they're not gonna be get away with stringing wires.
I think the commerce signal was 750 with 1 decel lane and 3 legs.
Maybe,
750.
okay, you're gonna meet with ODOT about what they're gonna do on 62, right?
Yes.
Once you find that out. So they're not gonna put a roundabout in. Wait till they get finished and we'll let them help us put a roundabout in, let them put up the bond or the money for the red light. And then when ODOT gets through, we'll go back and put a roundabout in. We'll be a city then. We'll do what we want to.
There, Bigelow.
Yeah.
Absolutely an option. Absolutely.
I mean, if it's gonna cost them $750,000 and they're willing to deposit that money into an account for the village, they don't have to worry about engineering and stuff like that. We can do it. After the state gets through with 62, then we go back and put a roundabout there at Big One.
Yeah, it's kind of similar to Jack's $3,000, although there's a couple more zeros. We're working with a contractor, give us your $3,000, we'll take care of it. It's the
Yeah.
same thing. I'm sure Pulte would write that check in a heartbeat once we know what the check amount's gonna be.
There's specific funds that you can set up that are earmarked for specific projects that lock that money into that project, like we did with the
Yeah.
62 and things like that. So we would have a fund that would be specific for that, and it wouldn't be a hard thing.
It could possibly be a win-win for Pulte and the village of Johnstown.
Absolutely.
We get what we want. Instead of another red light, we get a roundabout there. It would slow the traffic coming into town.
That'll be topic number 1 when we meet with them. Pulte after the ODOT meeting.
Any further? Jim, are you done?
I don't know. Am I?
We haven't got to visit for a while, so.
That's true. And I think any further questions for Jim? Okay, moving on. Next up is I have written you all a letter. From this council member to my fellow council members. This is the way the state law requires this to be handled. And this letter, if you've read it or haven't read it, introduces the concept of a revitalization district in our downtown area. And basically the reason for that revitalization district is the state law requires you go through this process in order to get extra liquor licenses. And if you're going to have independent restaurants, they want liquor license. So that was the reason that I sent you this letter, and it's in your packet. And the attachments are from Denise Blankmeyer. And her interest, of course, is to getting one of those licenses when they become available. And though she does mention in her presentation about the other restaurants downtown that would take advantage of this also, it's not just hers. Anyhow, the first step in this is for us to go through the process we're going through tonight with the introduction of the letter, the application. And we will have completed that. And then we have to advertise this to the public for a couple weeks. And then we will have a resolution, I guess, which will come to the
Ordinance.
council. It's an ordinance. We will pass we will consider an ordinance and we'll all get to vote on it and have our 2 cents. Put input into it. And at that point, then we will send it off to the state and the state will either grant it or not grant it, as I understand the process.
And if you want a short little summary outside of what we've already provided you, City of Zanesville has a quick summary on their website, just if you want to take a look at it.
And it's the same thing we've been talking about for a few months.
Yes. Now, this is just revitalization, so this will only get liquor licenses.
Yeah.
There's also there's also the idea where.
Also the DORA.
The DORA, which will come next. And then the improvement district is that self-levied tax that would then go for the amenities and the flowers and the upkeep downtown, which we haven't started. Just wanted to make sure there was
I have a question. Since Denise, she's got like 5 parcels that she drew out. What was the purpose of that on her map?
I can share.
Yeah.
So we get so many liquor licenses per acre. I believe that it's 1 for every 5 acres. So actually village staff helped Denise draw this map to try and really create a district that would get us multiple extra liquor licenses and also sort of highlight the areas that we want to focus on to encourage independent businesses. So this area, I believe, is just over 30 acres.
so we get 6 licenses available.
Or possibly just under 30 acres. So it's 5 or 6. Yes.
So we got 3, that counts 3 active now.
3 D5s.
Yes.
So we're gonna get 3 more or 6 more,
We will get 5 or 6 more.
5 or 6 more.
Mhm.
So, I mean, if you think Villa's gonna expand with a sit-down restaurant, some other ideas out there.
You get those for a food truck.
No,
I don't think D5s you can.
not D5s.
I was gonna park one over in the parking lot.
That's not allowed, Marvin.
Fashion diner, do they want one?
Yes.
I said that's not allowed, Marvin.
So the D5s right now is Ghost Rider, the new Old Horseshoe, and Pub.
Pub. Okay, so this will come back at us again. If you have questions, we can talk about those, or we can save it until this comes back.
I got one more comment to make on this.
Sure, Marvin.
Word's out that Denise and Dennis want to put a bourbon bar in the building there on the corner. The buzz I'm hearing from everybody around town, they're all thrilled about it. I don't know what a bourbon bar is, but I'm talking about the license and what people saying. People's thrilled about it.
Good.
So you're saying we could vote on this tonight? If we
No.
No,
Can't.
Comes back.
statutorily you can't.
We have to go through the process, which is why I had to write you all a letter, write one to myself. And so that's how the state
We
requires us to do it.
We are required to put public notice in a newspaper of general circulation at least once a week for 2 consecutive weeks. So we've scheduled one to go out this Thursday and one to go out next Thursday, and then an ordinance will be on the agenda at the next meeting.
Assume we're doing the advocate or we,
The advocate.
And I'll just say thank you to Bailey. She's been working with Yaz and our attorneys to make sure we're legally where we're supposed to be with all this. So if there are questions, ask Bailey, because if you ask me, I'm just gonna tell you to go ask Bailey. So I'll save you some time.
anyhow, as you all know, the COVID crisis has taken its toll on all of our business community, and this is just one way we can be helpful. So anyhow, next up is, I think the plan was to leave the tabled things tabled at least for another 2-week period.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Unless somebody has a problem. Hearing none, we'll move on. So we have to do some introductions tonight and have some public hearings. So we will move into the legislative part of this, if I can find my place. Okay. That's gonna wait on us. Okay, first up is ordinance, I think, 30-2021.
Yes.
Okay, an ordinance amending ordinance 34-20, the annual appropriation ordinance of the Village of Johnstown to approve necessary changes of appropriations. And tonight, we're having the introduction. Or no, we introduced this on the 20th of July. If I could just read my script here. Tonight is a public hearing and a vote. And so this is to add money to basically the legal funds.
Yeah, so I just told you about the legal assistance we're getting from our law director. This is to help pay for that.
Help pay for. But there are a number of issues that he's been dealing with.
Oh, yeah, it's not specific to the
It's not
revitalization.
specific to this, so.
Nope. So we have
Anyhow,
to-
so we have to have a public hearing, so I will entertain a motion to approve the ordinance. So
So
we already
moved.
did that, didn't we? No, we didn't.
No, we have to move it to vote on it.
Again, okay.
So I'll make the motion to go forward.
Before that, if I could just a quick
Mhm.
aside, because I asked Dana several questions. She sent an email back to me and noted 2 ordinances on for tonight. Later on in the packet, we'll have ordinance 36 talking about an increase in revenue for the village because of how our income tax receipts are trending. Dana noted on this ordinance 30-2021 that 16,000 would take care of the legal bills that she has now.
Sitting under debt.
But if we wanted to increase it to 30, that would probably be prudent. So she left that to council to decide whether we wanted to make that change from 16 to 30.
In this ordinance?
Correct.
I'd rather bring another ordinance forward to increase it again if we had to.
I mean, that's fine. I'm just telling you what she emailed me and whether or not we want to do that.
That would be my.
Say she just this will just give her enough money to pay those bills.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do
what's up with
expect
this?
more legal invoices before the end of the year is what it said.
So if we give her, if she gets to 30. we might forward it again till the end of the year.
Hopefully, yeah, that's the way that I read it.
I mean, what's your pleasure? I will.
I think if we
Up to you
increase
all.
it to 30, it would
I
leave.
say you increase it to 30, so you see one less piece of legislation.
Okay,
I do
I'll
too.
go for that.
Up to
I'll
us,
change my
yeah.
mind. So you want to amend your
Motion?
motion?
For ordinance 30-2021, I would like to amend the dollar amount from 16,000 to 30,000.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded. Discussion. And then we'll have the public hearing. Any discussion on this amendment? Hearing none, we're gonna move on to hold the public hearing. I'm gonna open the public hearing. I'm gonna close the public hearing. And we'll move to a vote. And so it's ordinance 30-2021 as amended.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Bentley,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Fred Dutcher,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren.
Yes.
Carol Van Dies.
Yes.
Doug Liner.
Yes. Okay. Next up is resolution 2021-30. It's a resolution authorizing the manager of the Village of Johnstown to accept the donation of real property. Oh goody, somebody's gonna give us something.
Yeah, something that's already ours.
Right. You
Um,
want to talk about?
A whole lot else you can do with that piece anyway.
Yeah, they came through with, they had to do a lot split for some other various reasons. So during that conversation, we said, well, we have a easement on your property for the lift station. Can you just give us the property itself? And they said yes. So before I took it, before we took it as a donation, we probably should ask if you want it. And I would ask that you accept it. So it'll be fee simple. It'll be ours in title. No cost other than, your typical recording fees and whatnot. So this is development that's currently in the pipeline of an existing Johnstown business, going to get a little bit bigger and move on to a new facility here in the future.
When we had this through planning and zoning, there wasn't much detail. Is that still not
It's
public?
not public.
Okay.
They're giving
Will
us,
get bigger.
The buyer of this,
Buyer of the
An existing
land
business.
opposite what they
Oh.
just gave us.
Okay,
only because it's not public.
all right.
So I'm thinking of two different lift stations. Tell me where this one's close to.
Huntington Bank,
Got it. That's what I thought.
One by
Big
Huntington.
billboard.
outside the village,
Yeah.
outside the yellow line.
Okay.
Okay.
So all
So-
this does is just allows us to accept the property.
Okay, so tonight we're gonna have an introduction, a public hearing, and we're gonna have a vote. So I introduced it. Now we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Carol has made a motion to accept the resolution
I'll second.
and Ben has seconded. So now we'll move on to how the public hearing. So we'll open the public hearing, we'll close the public hearing, and any discussion amongst council members. Hearing none, Teresa, you want to call the roll?
Cheryl Robertson,
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher,
Yes.
Sharon Hendren. Carl Van Dies. Doug Lehner,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
yes,
Ben Lee.
Yes.
Okay. Resolution is approved, so we can accept the property. Resolution 2021-31 is a resolution adopting rules for the Johnstown Dog Park. This is a happy time.
No cats
And-
allowed.
No cats allowed. Cats can get their own some other time. Anyhow, just kidding for the cat people listening. Gotta have rules if we're gonna have a dog park.
Have rules.
Otherwise, we'll have a mess on your hands. Anyhow, Bailey, you want to lead us through this?
Yes, the Village of Johnstown will be constructing a dog park that is scheduled for August 16th to begin. And that will be located at the Trailhead Park. So the dog park needs rules for our visitors and their pets, mostly to create a safe environment so that it's welcoming for all. These rules have been provided by the Licking Parks District and they are currently in use at their dog parks. That's pretty much all that I have.
So,
If you approve these tonight, I will be ordering signs that will be hung on the fence so that everyone can read them when they come to the dog park.
is that? Time to ask questions.
not yet. So we've introduced it. We'll entertain a motion to approve the rules for the dog park.
I make that motion.
Carol, thank you. We have a second. I'll second.
Thank you.
This is really a happy occasion. This dog park has been under discussion for a number of years. Can't tell you how many people have stopped me on the street, have called my house, have hit me up at local restaurants about, we need a dog park. I don't like going to New Albany. I don't like going to Infirmary Mound. Why can't we have a dog park? Of course, right behind it is the splash pad and that'll come up some other day. But anyhow, dog parks are big and dog owners
Passionate.
are passionate. They're passionate about their pets and having a separate park for small dogs and versus a separate one for big dogs. And that's important too. And we basically have done this with the help of the Licking Park District. Can't thank them enough for their expertise, their experience. They've shared all that with us
And help paying for it.
and they've helped pay for it even, that's even more important.
And I also want to add to that, when Louis Main was on our Parks and Rec Committee, he was always pushing the dog parks. And he wanted it in the trailhead, which some of us were opposed to. And it was always pushed to the side. So if you see Louis Main, be sure and tell him, we're getting a dog park where he
Yes.
wants it.
And we'll,
I'll ask him to take him down.
and when we, and when we dedicate the dog park, we'll be sure to invite Louis.
Oh, yeah.
We're not naming after him?
It's up to the council.
Main Park.
Name it after whoever you so choose.
You can name it after Fido as far as I'm concerned.
My answer is I'd rather not.
Right,
Okay.
I mean, they don't even have dogs. They have cats. So
right. Doesn't even
It
have,
was big
He was,
behind it.
but he wasn't
Yes.
the only one.
no, Carol, you were
Well, I
instrumental
don't
in getting
know.
this
I
done.
don't have
Yes,
dogs
you
either.
were very instrumental.
No.
Yes.
So anyhow, we're doing the introduction, which we have done. Next
The
up,
Johnstown Dog Park.
we're having a
End of
public
story.
All right.
public hearing.
Sorry.
It's okay. So first up, it's been moved and seconded. So we're gonna open the public hearing. Hearing no public wanting to say something, we will close the public hearing and Teresa will call the roll.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Sharon Hendren.
Yes.
Carol Van Dyke.
Yes.
Doug Lehner.
Yes.
Marvin Block.
We're not going to discuss any of this. Is this? You're going to
Yeah, enough for discussion.
You already
We've
did.
been discussing it. Where have you been? Do you have something to say? We'll hold the vote and
That's fine.
we'll hold it.
I just had a question about one thing here.
Well, go ahead.
Okay, the rules being enforced here. You think they're going to be able to enforce the no food treats for dogs for humans?
I didn't hear what you said.
Says on here are the rules, no food treats, dog or human allowed. A lot of people control their animals with treats.
These are taken from the Licking County Park District.
I think they don't want a group of dogs attacking somebody that's.
Who's got
Got
treats?
food.
Right.
I'll vote yes for it. I don't think these rules will ever be enforced, but it's a good idea to put them up.
I have a question. It says,
What?
do our
Go ahead.
are pit bulls allowed in?
Yes.
Their dog.
I'm not going down that
Okay.
road trying to segregate breeds of
Dogs,
dogs.
okay.
I
Only if
actually
they're
think
on
the
the
people
road.
using this park will police themselves
Themselves, they
and their
will.
dogs.
I agree.
Anyhow, Teresa, did you finish?
Heard Marvin voted yes. and
Yes,
then now
yes,
we have
yes.
Ben,
Two
Lee,
times.
Yes.
Carol Robertson.
Yes.
Okay, we have unanimously approved the rules of the dog park. Happily. Next up is resolution 2021-32. Resolution committing funds to the Duncan Plains Road Improvement Project. And tonight, we're gonna have an introduction, a public hearing and a vote. And included in your packet are maps and drawings. And Jim, I think you're taking us through this one.
Yeah, my exhibit got rotated, but if you were to, I'll just do this. All this really does, I know we've talked about it before and I guess putting my commitment that I made probably outside of my scope of my job duties, but I had to make a decision. Committing the $50,000 to this $400,000 project, we will be improving, and when I say improving, don't get too crazy, just widening the berms a little bit, making the roadway a little bit wider. two down to, I think I've just mentioned 200,000 was approved by the state controlling board, $100,000 through jobs and commerce, 50 from us and 50 from the county engineer. The county engineer will be running the project, so we're just going to cut a check and forget about it. So when that came across my desk, that made me happy. I guess Jack too by default, but we would ask for your consideration to, and the reason the state needs a formal commitment from us, which is the reason for the resolution. They didn't want to take my word for it.
If we pass this, when would it start?
That was a question that we just, safety and service.
Yeah,
I'll-
yeah, because we'll want to get that water line in there before that happens.
I would assume by the time he being Jared Nur, the engineer, it's gonna be next year probably, I
year.
would assume.
So this can be a 2022 budget disbursement.
Yes. I
Perfect.
don't see us having to do it.
Up front.
Fantastic.
Now, I reserve the right to change that answer
Nope.
once we talk to them.
Nope.
Oh, that's fine too. I'll just tell them, hey, it's in 2020. We got to figure that part out.
Yeah, just from a planning standpoint, if we can make it January 1, 20.
County engineer is going to be doing the design work and stuff. So I would assume there's not going to be a lot of upfront design fees.
Right.
Cool.
We'll
So
weasel it into 2022.
tonight we're doing introduction,
Yeah, the way Edwards Road's designed.
public hearing and a vote. So we will entertain a motion.
May I say one other thing?
Sure.
Representative Frazier helped Rick Platt out a great deal with this application. So if you do see him,
We will thank him.
I will definitely send my appreciation.
And I will answer his friend request.
That's up to you.
And give you credit, Jim. I think most of us, you'd give us a heads up on this before you made the actual decision. Because we talked about it when we was talking about expanding the water lines out there, didn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, we, mhm,
So it wasn't like you hadn't.
This is not something
I
new.
knew. Mm-mm.
No, it just formalizes it. They don't want my word.
So anyhow, I need a motion.
I so moved.
Marvin's
I
moved
second.
and
In the money.
Sharon has seconded. And we will move to the public hearing. I'll open the public hearing. I'll close the public hearing. Questions, discussions? Hearing none. We'll move, Risa can call the roll.
Sharon Hendren,
Yes.
Carol Van Dies,
Yes.
Doug Lehner,
Yes.
Marvin Block,
Yes.
Ben Lee,
Yes.
Cheryl Robertson.
Yes.
Mayor Dutcher.
Yes. Resolution is agreed to. Next up is ordinance 32-2021, ordinance amending chapter 1195 of the Village of Johnstown codified ordinances. Bailey, are you the lucky person to take us through this?
This amendment is proposed to chapter 1195 and will require property owners to remove their trash cans from the front yard and public sidewalks by the day following trash pickup. It also requires that they are not placed out for pickup until the day before. And this was forwarded to council from planning and zoning last Tuesday.
So tonight, we are going to, it's just introduction. We have 2 weeks. I understand there was some discussion in safety and service about making some changes and adding some language and some definitions, among other things. And we've got 2 weeks to do that. When this will get to come back to us. So tonight was just the introduction.
If I could.
Yes, if you have questions, go ahead.
The only thing that I would say is, yeah, it does come back to us in 2 weeks for more of a deliberative approach and discussion and et cetera. But Chief did share some call outs that he had reading through the ordinance and things like that with respect to definitions of, container, right of way, front of yard, some language at the end of the red italicized version with respect to how citations could be levied and things like that. And so the hope was that in safety and service, that those comments and feedback could be filtered to Bailey and Jim for further, consideration and consolidation. So maybe there's an updated ordinance in front of us, maybe with some additional changes to address those concerns in 2 weeks, which I think are salient and valid. And I would say anybody else on council that has any comments or feedback to pass those along as well for consideration. And I think we can probably have a pretty robust discussion in 2 weeks about the entirety of what's being presented. But Chief did bring up quite a few good points.
With all the changes and things that we were talking about. It's gonna be almost like a new ordinance, isn't it?
Would you rather take it back to planning and zoning?
Well, if we pass, or if we have the first reading on this tonight, and it's changed a great deal, that the chief brought up those changes and stuff, changed a great deal, we're gonna have to go back and amend it and all that stuff, so we just clear it up.
I mean, there can be changes,
We've done that before. We did that with food trucks.
which is what we're gonna do. We've done that before.
Yeah.
So. We'll see this again in 2 weeks. And the groundswell of citizenry coming tonight did not happen.
They left the ropes on the square.
Next up is ordinance 33-2021, ordinance amending chapters 1133, 1137, 1181 of the Village of Johnstown codified ordinances. And let's see, tonight it's just an introduction. Public hearing and vote will happen at the meeting on August 17th. And Bailey, I think are you the lucky person again? You're winning them all. You can better buy a lottery ticket. Okay, you're up.
The amendments to these chapters will require applicants to post yard signs on their properties, alerting the public of hearings for variances, amendments, and non-conforming use applications. This came out of planning and zoning when we were talking about how members of the public hear about public hearings that kind of concern them or their properties or properties that are close to them. And really, we were talking about how there aren't as many newspapers in general circulation anymore. And so we've been posting notices for hearings on the website, but sometimes if it's, a bigger hearing or we need to let more people know, it's hard to let those people know. So we've decided that we're going to have the applicant at their cost post one yard sign, which I've provided Exhibit A. And of course, if you see any changes you'd like to that, I'm always welcome to hear those. But we will request that the applicant at their cost provide these public yard signs, one per public street frontage. So if you have a corner property, you'll have to post one at each street frontage. That just alerts the public that there's going to be a hearing concerning your property, and you have to post it 10 days before the hearing.
I love this idea.
I think it's a great idea. And many other municipalities around the country do this on a regular basis, and it seems to work very well.
I see it in New Albany all the time.
Yeah.
And it draws attention, and I think people do pay attention and ask questions and what's this about? What are you doing?
A lot of the conversation in planning and zoning too is around, we're talking about radius of certified letters and things like that. And how broad do you go? Or is it a property that's contiguous to the property that's in question? But I think we ultimately landed on, and it's with the next one as well, that extends this to the COA process, is that it affects not just those that are contiguous to a property. It affects also those that are driving by it from an aesthetic standpoint. If there's a massive change and an increase in density or a change in density, it affects those that are frequenting that particular area as well. So this just, I think, continues to build on our efforts to better publicize what we're doing to those that it affects most directly.
Okay.
Yeah,
Question, Marvin?
yeah, the signs on the property advertise the date and time of the hearing. Are we gonna ask them to get a professionally made sign, or we're gonna let them make yard signs?
We'll provide that template on our website. I guess it has to be a certain size. It has to be a minimum of 3 feet by 2 feet. But there is nothing that says that it has to be professionally made.
We could put some requirements in there, vinyl. Give them a spec.
Could we not go up to the sign shop uptown and ask them if they would be willing to put that on a template? Because this could be a time sensitive thing also. Where we know as a package, you'd have a 3 foot by 2 foot sign. We know the verbiage that we want in there, and all they would have to do is add the subject of the hearing and the date of the hearing. And then the individual could buy 1 or 2, whatever is needed. It's at their cost anyways. And if we go up and talk to them, maybe it's to our advantage to do that. And then you can direct people, hey, just go right uptown. They know exactly what it is. Let them know you need a public hearing notice sign. And
One thing you got to be careful, you can't mandate they go to that place.
Well,
So digital, but if you give them the spec, maybe they want to go to, maybe they own a sign shop.
Jim,
They want to do their own
what
sign.
about having,
like our no parking signs that then we hand fill in the slots, but they're that kind of like vinyl plastic, they're the temporary no parking signs. What if we had that made the design and had 50 of them sitting in here and they cost $2 a piece
As part of their application.
as part of their application? You can just
Yeah.
get that here. That way, every sign is the same. They just fill in what they need, just like we do with those temporary no parking signs.
We can do that.
I think in New Albany, they have those signs that Albany rents to them. Because they're all the same. Granville's pretty well the same too.
They don't put the
Just
dates, yeah.
fill them in and they rent them to them.
All I was saying is if we had them here, it would be uniform, every sign would be the same.
that's what I'm
That's
looking
right.
If we
for.
could just charge them for whatever
Yeah, charge them extra.
That's
whatever
right.
our cost is, we don't want to make money on them.
Why not?
The reason I brought the point up, I didn't.
Okay, a little different view there, but
Make another $1.
Charge them an extra
that way
$1.
everything's uniform, everything will look the same and they'll get them from the same place.
Somebody with good handwriting will fill that out.
Laura,
My God, we need money.
There's handwriting is pretty.
So anyhow, tonight we're just doing introduction.
Good idea.
But I like the idea of having a uniform
Yeah,
sign,
I do too.
not some crazy
Signs all over.
kindergarten looking sign.
we make them get a permit. Just joking.
Sign permit.
Permit for the sign?
That we're mandating they get. Just a joke.
Yeah.
I know, I got it.
Such a
Call
New
it
Albany,
circular
what are you
reference.
doing?
Anyhow, moving right along. I think the next one is ordinance 35-2021. An ordinance amending chapter 1187 of the Village of Johnstown Codified Ordinances. And this is the design review board. Tonight is just introduction. We're gonna see it again on the 17th. And Bailey, I think you win again.
So this ordinance amending chapter 1187 will also require a yard sign for COAs and design plans. The reason that I included it in a separate ordinance is because I needed to make some clarification on required meeting times for the design review board. The current writing says that the design review board must meet weekly or bi-weekly, and I changed it to say as needed, just because I'm not sure that we'll need that many meetings. So this way, they can have meetings as needed instead of
Right.
having to have a meeting if they don't need one.
We want to do the same kind of uniform sign.
Yeah, I'll just make the same change. I'll make the same wording change to this one that I make to the previous one.
Great idea. So we'll see this again. It'll be back. Next up is ordinance 36-2021, ordinance amending ordinance 34-20, the annual appropriation ordinance of the Village of Johnstown to approve necessary changes of appropriations. And who with, Christina isn't here. And this is just introduction tonight. But basically, this is we're adding the revenue that is coming in into the general fund from the municipal income tax, because those receipts are trending higher than we originally anticipated. It also appropriates for the general fund, the tree trimming that we have discussed before.
Which takes place August 24th, 25th, and 26th.
Okay, and also the headstone for Oliver Bigelow at the cemetery, which is will be the first act of the city of Johnstown to place a new headstone for Oliver Bigelow and honor him as the founder of our city. So that's included in this. There's appropriation for street maintenance, additional personnel costs for your person that we're going to hire. And it also includes the money from the American Rescue Plan that the village, the $267,000 we're getting instead of the $500,000 we were supposed to get. That they stole from us. Anyhow. And then the revenue for capital improvements fund, we're transferring in 30%. And that's 45,000. And then appropriations for capital improvements. That's the trailhead parking lot, and this is where we're paying for it. So anyhow, we're gonna see this again in 2 weeks, and Ben, you have the floor.
Just a quick comment on this, because this is the other ordinance that Dana noted, and that is probably more salient for Finance Committee. We originally talked about a $100,000 increase to general fund because we talked about expending from CIP the money to pay for the trailhead parking lot. In order to do that and maintain a zero balance, the increase was bumped to 150 instead of 100 to kind of keep that wash. So Dana made that change in this ordinance. So if you compare notes, that's the change between what we passed and discussed in finance to now.
Right.
But just a note on that, that's not necessarily going out on a limb because we're still extremely conservative in increasing our revenue based off of the way that we're trending at this point. So $150,000 is still very, very conservative to what we expect to end at the end of the year. But for the record, just wanted to make that note since that is a change from what we talked about in the last. finance meeting.
If you all did not see Jim's posting about revenues and expenditures, I think you did a Facebook posting
Could have.
which talked about how telling citizens that our council has been very conservative and how it's
Oh.
budgeted and managed our
Police officer and the street worker.
and resources and why we're the addition to paying for an additional police officer and also a new person for the street department so that we can do full-time or 3 days a week, take care of this pothole problem once and for all. And Jim highlighted the fact that the budget we had underestimated revenues, so we're receiving more revenue, and that we've been pretty on target as far as expenditures, and we don't spend money we don't have, or we can't figure out where it's coming from.
How you should run a budget.
That's right. Absolutely. And we can all be proud of that. And I am. So anyhow, that brings us to the end of our agenda. And I would ask if there's any other business.
I have one thing as well.
Okay, we'll start with
First.
you.
Ladies
You're the
first.
winner tonight, Bailey. We'll start with you.
The arborist got on my schedule today. He wants to come out August 24th, 25th, and 26th to do the trees on Main Street. I'm working with the police department to get some traffic control out there.
Great, thank you. Carol.
Ladies.
Okay, I have three things.
Oh, well, no.
Okay, first of all, I just realized I need to abstain from voting on the minutes because I wasn't here at the last meeting. So can that be
You can
changed?
trust her.
You can still vote yes if you are okay with that and trusting that they're right.
You read it.
Okay, and then we have design review applications online, correct?
We don't have an application. We just have a posting.
For the board?
For the board position?
Board position?
Oh,
Yeah, so we don't have an actual application that someone needs to fill out. We have a posting online that requests basically a letter of interest that states your experience, relevant experience.
Okay, and then my third question is, and it's not for me, could a council person apply to be on that committee?
Yes, I don't see why not. And we are looking for people. We need people.
We need people.
So if you know anyone who you think has relevant experience and would be good on the board, we need some people.
That live in the village.
They live in the village.
If we don't,
Village people.
Meetings are the second Tuesday of the month at 5 o'clock. So we need people.
Yeah, like always.
one consideration with that, if we don't get applicants, we can change the ordinance to go outside the village boundary. And you as a council will have to figure out if that person, you're probably not gonna want someone from Utica, but maybe somebody on 310 and 37 might,
Right, who has experience.
Outside the yellow box.
outside the yellow box to get
Uh-oh.
qualified people.
True.
Just a consideration. So yeah, there's that. Were you done? I'm sorry.
I have my three.
Three.
I'm done.
So obviously you guys all know we're busy. If there's something that you've told me about that you haven't seen done or actioned upon, don't hesitate to call me out on it. Cause if I'm in the middle of something and take your phone call, I may not have written it down. I'm trying. So if there's something, don't let it fester. Let me know if I've dropped something. Ben reminded me of something today that he asked 2 weeks ago, something simple, but I didn't write it down and I forgot about it. So if you expect something from me, let me know. And I don't take it personally whatsoever. I get more than I remember.
Here's your first call out.
Do it. I didn't say publicly.
It's called out right here. I'd rather do it this way right now than make a motion to have it done. So I will entrust that your staff, you and your staff will complete this because I've asked for it twice. And that is the Ohio Ethics Commission training. I would definitely like to see that done either by the end of September, or I can be flexible to the middle of October. That is a free thing that the Ohio Ethics Commission will do for you, for everybody. Council, anybody on a committee, anybody that's employed with the Village of Johnstown. I think it's a pretty big training. It's something that I'm required to do annually at the City of Columbus. I just finished mine last month. I would like to see us get into that routine here. There's a lot of good information in it. A lot of valuable information, and it's something that will be ahead of the game, actually putting the horse in front of the cart instead of the other way.
Sure.
So if we could, Jim, I know you guys are extremely busy. Once you reach out, even Laura could reach out, or anybody on staff, I guess, Teresa could reach out to him also. If you do get somebody at the front desk, just ask them, we'd like to set up a training with the Ohio Ethics Commission. You're with the Village of Johnstown. Can you set that up online? They can set it up online. It takes an hour, not really even an hour, maybe 45, 50 minutes to do it. And you can do it right at your laptop. You can do it at your desk. Pretty good training.
Absolutely.
So
And they could do it during the workday.
they could, yes.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Your staff could do that on the workday. I look at that kind of training, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if we are asking for a training that's pertaining to your job, you do it on work time.
Absolutely.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely done. And that is something I forgot. So I appreciate that.
I didn't want to really call you out. I mean, it was a good segue.
I'll take that one.
Yeah, but it's, I think it's very valuable for us. The other thing that I was thinking of, do we know, Bailey, do you know, have you been in touch when we're going to be stamped as a city?
No, I don't know.
Is that come still in September? Do you know? I haven't heard that it's changed. Have you?
I have not.
So the only thing I know, I posted some on Facebook and I think emailed it to you guys
Yeah.
with the process. But it's just back to whenever the feds dump the
Okay.
data on us, I guess.
So what I'm thinking is, and it might be trivial, however, when we get that designation as a city, should we not have the signage ready to go to change as quickly as we can? Where it says Village of Johnstown everywhere, to where it says the City of Johnstown. How
that's a-
are
A
we gonna
lot of
handle that?
a lot of our signs that we've done in the last 2 or 3 years We've tried to get away from the village of
Village.
Johnstown and the
There's
signs
are
say,
some
just
there.
say Johnstown, like the municipal parking lot. It
Right.
says Johnstown Municipal Parking.
Yep.
Yeah. And
But
the
are we
sign
gonna-
out here.
Yeah, we're gonna take inventory of some of the ones that say village and maybe do we
Yeah.
change them just over to Johnstown or and leave the city off of it or?
That's a financial decision, y'all. can
It
make.
is, and that's where I was going, is there's gonna be a financial impact on that. But I don't think it'll be a huge impact, but it's still gonna impact the budget if we're gonna try to get it done by the end of 2021. Just a consideration.
I think we have to look into that.
My number one goal is this one right behind us
Yes.
here.
Yeah.
That one
It's
needs to
just,
go.
even if we're not city, it still needs to go. We need to. change
And then
One on the outside.
Yeah.
I don't know what's under that, whether we're gonna have to do a little
Sure.
white paint and,
I would probably just enlist the company that did this for us.
yeah, they
do
did a
it
good
themselves.
job. I'm happy with that.
And
Answer your
if
question.
y'all wanna go that route, we can inventory and cost them out.
I think maybe we ought to look at that and see what we can do for still in 2020.
Yeah, on the-
Or is that gonna be a line item?
On the
budget for
side, or the
2022?
side, of the trucks, I can't remember what
I
they,
can't remember, does it say?
They just say
Village of Johnstown
Johnstown.
Or just
Okay.
says Johnstown?
Right here.
just
That's what
like
it's
that.
got, just a
Yeah,
little
they,
bit.
This is what we're doing.
What about all your business cards?
Logo.
logo.
We've
there's
changed, I mean, I think it was probably 3 years.
Everything
ago.
is-
I was gonna say, it's been 3 years.
Now, the
ago.
signs that we just put on the front door,
Logo,
it's just, no,
There's no
but don't they
village.
say village man, it says village manager.
village manager.
So we'll have to change that.
That's true.
Still gonna just be the manager of the village. You gotta get a new contract for city.
You'll
New title.
you'll want more money.
Title. New title for.
New title.
Sure. So like, I guess village planner is gonna be changed.
And
but sure.
chief, do you get city,
I would technically fall under a different Ohio revised code.
okay,
So that's all will change for me.
all right,
But like for the business cards, we'll run out of what we have.
right, we'll use up
Yeah.
what we got.
That's
It's not
fine.
that big
But
a
if-
deal.
That's technically going to be released on December 3rd, Nancy Pelosi's birthday. And they're gonna release it.
Really, the census data? So
Well,
we won't be a city till
Her
22.
President of the United States.
yeah, we won't. And that's, if that's the case,
Are you serious?
no, I
I
don't.
don't know.
He's not serious.
I don't know. I don't think he is.
Of course, he's not serious. He's not serious.
That's as good a guess as anybody else has had.
It probably makes the most sense at this point.
Well,
Yeah.
but
Punch
it's
drunk,
probably
it's
gonna
gonna
be
hit
before
you.
that, because they have to do they have to do the redistricting for the congressional races, and they have to get that done. So that's why they're waiting.
There's a lot of missing data.
There's a lot of stuff that's missing, so. Anyhow,
You'll first-
like the commitment from the commissioners, it's all, it's probably on the same island with that stuff.
To go to Doug's point about training, we're also going to be setting up the same, I think we touched on it, the chief just did for all of our staff, as well as a sexual harassment prevention training. So we'll send that out to everybody as well, if you're interested in taking those.
I think it'd be a good idea.
I have a question. I've been gone for 3 days. Why is the flag half mast?
The trooper that passed away in Toledo, the outpost. They found him dead and on shift
Oh,
in
right.
the station.
Recently, just.
Yes,
This weekend,
this weekend.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, okay.
governor ordered him.
I see.
Speaking about the city status, the flag contest.
Yep.
Who, I can't remember who that is with.
That's, what?
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
Parks and Rec.
What'd you do with it, Carol?
I haven't put it on the agenda yet.
We
Okay,
haven't
but-
met.
You know, we talked about, we need all of them on a sheet of paper with
Yeah.
a little place where we could just circle or check our top 3. So we're not going through a lot of paperwork.
And in reviewing them, my thought, anybody, not that it matters, but is that we sort of need a mashup. I didn't like,
Jim said we could do that.
I didn't really like any of them by themselves.
Right.
But I thought there were little parts of each of them, like I don't like the Rising Sun one, and I have a problem with that.
Not Japanese.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with Japan, but
Well,
it has
Well, and one thing we can do is hire.
design elements we have to be careful with.
I think we can work this into our tourism, loosely, but maybe with ARP funds, hire someone for a few grand to take our ideas and mash them up and come up with those final designs.
Or
Professional
since
flag.
you two might not be at the meeting, I'll just. pick
You
the
can
one I want.
choose. Now,
I wouldn't do
the other
that.
suggestion on that tourism is that at one of these points, if we ever find some extra money or somebody wants to write us a check,
You're about ready to appropriate 260,000.
wants to do development or and if we ever get a fee for developers, that's how we'll pay for that mastodon that's gonna go out there in the green ooze.
Gotta get the
So-
money before you spend it, Chip.
Anyhow, if anybody has any ideas, I still think it's a wonderful tourism idea.
I do too. I like it.
And it sure we could just think of the t-shirt sales
Yeah.
and everything else.
Jack always had a great idea. He wanted all of us to just, how much were we supposed to put in for this project?
2,000.
2,000 each. So, you
Because
know,
what was it, 80,000?
Yeah, you know, he said,
80-some
well, it was 70, it
thousand.
said
70.
35 people
And then we'd have to do the base,
that would,
the base and the ooze.
you know, here again, 35
Let's go- let's-
people that could do it, donate 2,000 apiece and run it up through and then,
that might cost more now because that
Let's do
was
it on
a
an
while
income
ago.
well, it was, but
Well,
like.
I think
Fred
it's
said,
still,
there
I
has to
still
be
think it's a
base
great
of
idea and it would
Thanks.
really be a tourism
Mhm.
mecca.
I want a free t-shirt with my $2,000.
What is the headline gonna be when we spend ARP funds out of Mastodon?
That's why we're not
Tourism.
gonna spend ARP money for
All right,
that.
fair enough.
I see we have a nice bench down there. I don't know who donated it.
Oh, Jim knows.
Was it? It was very nice. Oh, I know.
Mike Rush's
Mike
son.
Rush's son. It's very nice.
And did you see the bat houses too?
Yeah.
And they're
Okay.
they're down at the trailhead park.
They're down at Mastodon.
Oh, at the Mastodon
Place.
Center or whatever,
Discovery Park.
Center for Mastodon Studies.
New curriculum.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I got one more.
Sure, Doug, go ahead.
Okay, so this is gonna go towards planning and zoning. You said something 2 weeks ago, Chip, that's kind of stuck in my head. That the last time that we had an actual housing development platted was 10 years ago.
True.
I would like planning and
I
zoning.
think it'd probably be 12 years now.
Okay. Again, I would like to put the horse out in front of the cart and have planning and zoning pull out the documentations that we have on construction standards. We've done a very good job with design standards. We have not done anything with construction standards.
You mean roadway, sewer?
Roadway lots is the big one. How big the lot is, how big, you know, a building lot should be. The last people that were here looking at Michelson's, they wanted to put 0.19 of an acre per building lot.
No way.
We need to look at all that.
Isn't that what zoning's doing currently, Ben?
Doing that.
Are you guys looking at that now?
It's the entire,
What they brought to
The-
you was a PUD.
That's why we
I'm not
taking a
sure I
dim
still like
view
the
of
PUD
some of
idea.
those things.
Well, but then you
You sign a
don't
development
know.
certificate. What they brought
We
to you.
won't do.
But I would like, what I'm asking for is to make sure that we here at the council and on planning and zoning, we know what that is. And I don't know that we know what that is, Bailey. My thing is I'm walking around collecting signatures.
You getting it?
I was getting it. Okay. And the one thing is, you know, why do they want to jam all these houses into such a small area? We moved to Johnstown for a reason, and that's to stay rural. That's what I'm hearing. I'm going out. I'm walking almost every night with Amy, talking to people. That's what people moved to Johnstown for. I had one person in particular said, I moved here for that. If I wanted New Albany, I would have moved to New Albany and I can afford New Albany. But he moved here with his family. Okay. That really has stuck with me, a couple of
I agree
things. So
with
how do we approach that? I've had conversations with other council members. There's got to be a way that we can come up with some kind of a computer program, maybe it's out there, or if we're developing 60 acres and we know 15 of that is going to be for green space and roadways and sidewalks and curbs. You're developing 45 acres. Is it 10% of that right off the bat is 1 acre lots? 25% of that is 2/3 of an acre and the rest of them are half acre? And how does that computer model make all that happen within that area? To me, that's a lot more acceptable than 0.19 of an acre. That's not even a quarter of an acre. That's where you can reach out your window and, hi neighbor, can you open your window so we can talk? I mean, that's the way it is. Now, I'm not saying that we need to be so stringent that that's how everything is going to be, because if we want some areas developed somewhere, those guidelines, we still have that flexibility through planning and zoning to adjust that. But I think if we're on the right page of how does that construction standards look, I don't think we're there yet. Design wise, I think we are. I think we've done a great job with the design standards. Yeah, but how do we tackle this part? Because it's not a matter of if we get another developer coming, it's a matter of when. And if he comes tomorrow, we're behind the 8 ball again.
I don't know if we are, because we do have the P, so
We gotta approve it.
absolutely. And the PUD gives flexibility both sides, One thing also is, yeah, you might not want to stick your arm out and reach somebody, but a millennial or someone downsizing may want that smaller lot so they don't have to
And that's what I'm
maintain
saying. We can
things.
still
So
have flexibility on certain
that's the
areas.
PUD.
Yeah.
What's the standard size lot in Leafy Dale or Concord?
I could run a
Pretty
quick
close to
GIS.
half acre.
I mean, are they, I think they're quarter acre.
Mine's a quarter acre.
Section 1, I bought
Well,
2 and I have an
Mine's
acre.
smaller than.
I mean, that's what it was.
Section
in
1,
Leafy Dale.
but not
You
over.
have an acre?
Well, I split it with Terry. Behind me, Terry Priest, I have 7/8. Whoa, easy over there. It is.
But if you average it out, I bet you it's a quarter with all the new Mirandas and stuff.
I don't know.
I can figure it out.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can check, but I was thinking the average lot size between Leafy Dale and Concord's about a quarter acre. I mean, that's what Rolling Meadows is smaller than that, obviously. But I think of our 2 bigger
But
developments.
those are, yeah,
averages out
those are
about a quarter acre.
conversations that I would like to see happen in planning and zoning, and let's talk it out. I'm not saying we need to do that tonight. I'm saying those are things that we need to look at on the near future rather than putting it off, so we know what we're gonna get into. That's,
Well,
Conversations are happening.
okay.
Happening and putting it in
The latest go round.
The latest.
Wait, this-
Books.
No, it's been on the books. It's been up, it's been revised for 5 to 10 years at this point. We're just, we gotta get it passed and we gotta get it updated because 1988 is way out of date for a lot of these pages that are in there.
I agree.
But no, absolutely. And
I don't
I
want to inundate you guys with work though either. And Bailey, I know you've been working really hard and I really appreciate that. Publicly, I'm going to go out and say you've done a really good job. But I feel that when we reach that city status and development's coming, we know it's coming. Everybody in this room knows it's coming. How do we really, make that tight, get it tighter? And like Ben said, how do we update it from 1988 to where we are now?
No, you're not.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure that we're out in front.
Explain to me what a PUDs, I was on zoning and stuff, I know that. But once a PUD is approved, in my experience, they very rarely come back for anything except the staff changes and things. And I want to see what your PUD, the new one says. I just don't know if I'm all that in favor of PUDs anymore.
Yeah, and that's the policy decision
Yeah.
that
It's just-
should or should not be made.
It's just like the one guy come in with a, had a plan that was a preliminary plan, it was 20 years old. He sold half of it off and still wanted to use it.
Well, there were conversations in planning and zoning when I wasn't on the board, but was, attended the meetings diligently where that was brought up. And I'm sure you remember it, but whether or not we want to keep a PUD or not keep a PUD because of the flexibility granted that it gives to the village, but the con being the flexibility that it gives to, a developer, which is understandable. It's a two-way street. But at the time it was decided to keep it in, or it was just shelved and not fully vetted out. But because of the fact that there is ability on either side to negotiate and then you either accept it or you don't, I think is why it was ultimately kept into the draft. And as had we, that was how we reviewed it and continue to review it in the zoning update. So your talk about not having a PUD, I don't think is out of order, because I definitely think it's something that's been on the table before recently in planning and zoning.
We'll get you some, I think I actually have it through Wilcox, that whole thing of
Ooh,
the
yeah, yeah.
average sizes and stuff. I was trying to pull it up, but I can't find it, but I think.
We're not gonna solve it tonight, that's for sure.
I know.
But the other thing, while we're out in the community, just ask. I hate to
I'll tell you.
task everybody with something else, but let's ask, why did you come to Johnstown? Amy and I came here because of the rural feel. That's what we came here for.
You can
know,
also get that rural feel by, okay, if you take 50 acres and it's zoned quarter acre Bailey, now 3 houses to the acre, something like that, or 4.
Quarter would be 4.
Quarter to an acre.
So you let them tighten the actual building site up and leave more green space.
Yeah,
Like a conservation design.
Yeah.
Conservation.
Yeah. And that's what's promoted. I know some don't like to talk about, the Western Licking County Accord promotes the conservation design. We talked about PUDs and those types of larger developments with the conservation design because it affords more green space over a bigger period. The density equals out to be the same, but you save on infrastructure because you're not spread all over the place and you're centralized in one specific spot. So I think from the experience that I have on planning and zoning and giving feedback to anybody that's coming to talk, I think we've really pushed that conservation design because it fits well within the rural character that we already have. But that's what I think you're talking about, is that conservation design.
Yeah.
Doug, you said you and Amy came here for the rule. Okay, I actually lived across the street from Leafy Dell. I never left, and that was just a big field.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
So, things do change.
I know, I get it. I completely understand where you're coming from. I really do. But see, my definition is skewed because where I was born and raised and where my parents still live is in the middle of a 220 acre cornfield, and that's the only house there. So my definition of rural is skewed. I mean, way off the map on the right-hand side, right? And I don't know that I have the answers, Carol. I'm not saying I have all the answers, but collectively, with the talent that we have within these walls, including all the administration, we can figure it out to where it really is a, not so densely populated with just house right on top of one another,
Doug, they bring those to us because that's what makes them money. And then to Chip's point,
Money, Ben.
no.
We're not there for them making money.
Doug,
That's not it.
Doug, they bring that plan to us because that's their first option that makes us money. And it's either up to us to accept it, modify, or deny. So
Right.
that's all I'm saying is
Right.
that, yes, they bring us plans at a third of an acre, per home or a quarter acre, a tenth of an acre, but they do it because that's what makes them the most money. And then we either accept, modify,
understand
or
that.
deny.
But we don't need
That's
to
the-
accept
to-
that.
But
Right, which we haven't in the last
we're
10
not
years.
interested. I mean, our primary thing shouldn't be about
But then the
what
next
makes them
question,
money.
I
That's
think
right.
you get,
Who cares what makes them
I
money?
think the
Sure.
next question you get, Mr. Mayor, is you get somebody, well, what is acceptable?
But
And we need to have that answer. I don't
understand.
know that we have that answer.
I understand.
That's what they're working.
I'm gonna make a suggestion, we adjourn.
Okay, I'm good.
I mean,
No, you're fine.
these people have
won't-
to go home. They've been here all day.
All those in favor, aye.
I.
Opposed, same sign.
No.
We're adjourned. It's a good discussion, Doug, and we will
It is.
continue it.